This is a Two Front podcast.
You got a crooked smile, well that don't bother me much. You double overworking, double time, you double tough. I'll just shine it up until the sun hit like a glare. I gotta dare, get the fuck up out the chair.
Welcome back to The Happy Dentist. Today, I'm so excited to have our guest, JJ Gómez, who is a partner in digital smile design. Christian, why don't you tell us a little bit about JJ?
Ingrid, you always say that you're so excited about all the guests. Is there any
Well,
guest
I
that
am.
you're so excited about?
Otherwise, we wouldn't have them on as guests.
I'm so excited today. You're always so excited. I'm happy for that. That's good. But anyway, JJ Gómez. JJ is already, so for me, a brother that Dentistry gave to me. Probably one of my best friends in the industry, became my partner at DSD, but professionally speaking, a master on relationships. He navigated through so many positions in the dental industry, from working into dental software company, DSO companies, planning center companies, lab companies, all type of roles. And nowadays he runs all the DSD clinic project relationship. I like to say, I joke with JJ. I say everybody needs a JJ, and that's my tagline. And what I mean with that is that everybody needs somebody that you can share this ambassador position. People say that when they think about DSD, they think about me. But nowadays, I can say that when people think about DSD, they also think about JJ. So it's amazing to be able to share this position with him. And I think he has great insights from a non-clinical perspective that we can learn from.
Welcome to our show, JJ.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, listen, I'll share a little bit from our very small conversation that we had, which is that obviously you've been seeing dentists, you've been observing them, becoming friends with them, mentoring them for 16 years. And one thing we were talking about is the chronic unhappiness in our industry that exists that Kyle knows better than anyone. And you shared some golden nuggets with me around why you think that dentists are more unhappy than other professions. And I would love for you to just share those with our audience.
Yeah. Thanks. I've been thinking about this a lot, even since we spoke. But something that I think we all four know, and that it's kind of obvious about the industry, but it's just the more ambitious the dentist is, the more money they want to make, the more time they need to spend alone. Production is laser focused inside of the mouth. And what happens is people come out of school, they come into dev, they buy the practice, or they start a practice from scratch, and they need to pay those bills. And then they put more and more and more hours, and they're just very lonely. And that was something that, coming from outside, where most of our work happens in conversations, that was really striking to me at the beginning. But something else I think I told you that you liked is that, and I don't know if this is so obvious. Of course, we know that long-term quality of relationships is one of the biggest things that have more impact in our happiness. And there's a thing that I have observed in dental offices all over the world, and it's that there's a big discrepancy in the level of education and the level of culture in a dental team between the dentist and their staff, right? A lot of the dental practices, especially in the US, are one doctor practices. The doctor owns it, he runs the business, but he also does all the dentistry. And he's the only clinician in the room, right? And then the rest of the team, he doesn't or she doesn't see them as peers, right? And the fact that you're alone for 6 days a week or 22 days a month with nobody that you consider a peer, I think it has a lot of effect in just bringing you down.
You know that sinking feeling when the same patient keeps coming back for crown after crown? Yeah, we've all been there. Here's the thing. What if we could actually prevent all that mess with a simple bite correction? That's where we come in at Two Front. We handle the whole Invisalign process for you. I'm talking zero ClinChecks, zero lab bills, barely any chair time. Oh, and we take on the liability too. Your patient gets a healthy bite that'll save them thousands down the road. You get to be the hero who prevented years of dental drama. It's honestly a no brainer. Check out Two Front and start helping your patients dodge a lifetime of dental work today.
I'm glad you mentioned that because my dad told me this early. He said, you'll work with your team. Some of them may be with you for 20 years, but they're different than you. You don't have the same income. You don't have the same family structure. You don't have the same education. It's different. You may feel connected to them in the practice a little bit, but you really there's a divide of some way. And I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because I think when non-dental people think, well, how could a dentist be lonely? They're in this, there's 10 people in the practice every day, right? But so many of them tell me too, and in my courses and stuff that, yeah, I feel extremely lonely. Even though, like you said, when you're doing production, you got your loops on, you're there, you're focusing on the mamelons and everything. You have two other people there at least, right? You have an assistant and you have the patient, but you feel extremely lonely.
I think that when you don't have people around you on your work environment that can challenge you, that has enough credits to challenge you, you feel very lonely. On a business here, for example, is the opposite. I have a CEO running my company. I have JJ that I can talk about everything. I have several people in my direct environment that they can say things to me that I don't want to hear, right? They can challenge, they can disagree with me. So for the dentist, maybe, if you can create that relationship with your main treatment coordinator, with your business manager, with your technician, with your main associate, if you can empower your hygienist to become a super powerful prevention program director, you start to have people that you can actually share things more than just giving orders.
This was important to me when I had, because I have two partners. And now I can't imagine not having partners. I think because of that reason that you're talking about, Christian, my partner Matt, and I think I've brought this up before, but my partner Matt will bring up things that I don't want to talk about, but we need to talk about. And thank goodness that he does bring them up because, we've changed structures, we've changed percentages of who owns what, of how we pay each other, of timing. And all of those had to have these crucial conversations that I probably would have just let go, but Matt brought them up for me. And that's why he's such a great partner, is because we can have those
100%.
conversations together.
I was telling JJ, I don't know if you guys have felt this way before, but the first day that I started practicing, I think was the worst day of my life. And I was sitting in my practice. I was in the basement of an orthodontic practice. I had gotten a salary that was 20% more per diem than, I was going to get. So I thought I was going to be happy. I was making more money, but I was so isolated, so lonely. I felt so disconnected from my team and my patients. And I realized, oh my God, this is not it. This is not what dentists, this can't be the end game. So JJ, I'm curious, you've been in this industry for a while now. Christian, you brought up so many good points about like having a business manager and developing a relationship with your treatment coordinator. I'm curious, like, have you seen dentists who have done this right and who are actually happy?
I'm very happy you asked that question because after we spoke the other day, I was thinking about it, and I know probably by now 4,000 dentists really in
Wow.
most of the 80 countries, and a couple of doctors came up in my head as having somebody, a business manager or a practice or a partner that's not clinical, that they can actually treat as equals or consider them, respect them enough and respect their opinions enough to treat as peers, as we said. I can think of two, nobody else. And believe me, their businesses are thriving and they're super happy. They have more going on because they don't need to focus so much on running the business, but they also have a relationship that they can,
This topic is amazing because I don't know if people talk about this. I never heard actually people. It's almost like whatever components everybody talks about to become a happy dentist, we are adding this extra factor. It's almost like the recipe, part of the recipe. Having somebody on your practice that you feel like is at your level, and you can share things that can challenge you, that can disagree with you, that can grow with you, that can make you grow. I think we should add that to the list of having a happy practice.
Have you guys read the book Think and Grow Rich? Okay. Anyone
Yes.
else? Napoleon Hill. Okay, I stumbled upon it during Christmas. It was a book that my dad had. It's like the oldest version and it was like all marked up. And I've been reading it and it's like one of the most fascinating books I've ever read in my life. It's basically the philosophy of success. And one of the things they talk about is the fact that you need a mastermind. And a mastermind is a group of people like you who can like accelerate your goals. And so if you don't have that as a single practice owner, how can you feel happy? You're on this journey on this planet by yourself. I'm curious what you think about that, JJ.
Yeah. There's some organizations that offer mastermind. When you get into some type of coaching, sometimes they do. I think it's a great idea, but there's a caveat about it, and it's that those people are not with you every day. It's great for your long-term success, and you're gonna be able to step on them together to go further. But as much as I think it's helpful, I think it's not enough, because you need that person closer, or at least one, right? And it doesn't mean that you need to hire. You have your practice owner, and you have one practice, one location, and you need to hire Wharton or Harvard MBA. No, you can probably invest in somebody that you already have, or you can hire in the market. At one dental office, especially in Western world and of course US, can totally afford a salary of somebody that's qualified to do that.
I've seen big advantages with masterminds, so I do agree with JJ. But I think if it's not possible for you to have someone there every day, I've seen big advantages with masterminds. Caveat and in full disclosure, I run a mastermind, so we meet twice a month, and it's been really powerful. I mean, we have a lot of people tell us, I just had this really hard week. If I didn't have you guys to talk to about it, I would have really went to a dark place. But because I felt understood, and because even just a WhatsApp group, we have a WhatsApp group, but then we meet on Zoom twice a month. And it's been really powerful because there's people that, like in our mastermind, we have people from France and Belgium and Canada and the US, all over the US. And for them to know that someone in Belgium is going through the same thing as someone in Connecticut, it makes them feel like there's nothing wrong with them. And that was one of the big things with me when I was in my dark place, was I thought I was the only one having problems, because no one talks about it on social media. Even when you go to a CE course, everyone's like, oh yeah, what are you doing with Emacs, and how are you cementing your veneers, and what kind of guided surgery are you using? No one's saying like, I feel lonely, or I can't have these conversations with my hygienist that's coming in 10 minutes late every day. So making people feel normal for having normal problems, I think, is one of
Is
the
your
best
mastermind,
things.
Kyle, is it focused on mental health?
It is, yeah. So it's people that have gone through my online or in-person courses and then want to continue to have, be kept accountable and have a community and have someone they feel like they can talk to openly about the stuff they're going through. But it's funny, most of the time, we don't talk about mental health. We talk kind of practice management. So it's really, we talk about communication, we talk about staff management, hiring and firing. I have this asshole patient. How do I get rid of them? What do you recommend? So it's interesting. It's the overall cloud is mental health, but really what that is how to handle practice management situations better. What do you think most dentists are blind to? And another way I can ask that would be, what do you think the biggest mistakes are that most dentists are making?
Tolerating toxic culture. They don't. It's so obvious when you come out from outside. You see it in 20 seconds. You see who doesn't want to be there and who's creating a really, really bad, hostile environment, and they just put up with it. They're so used. Sometimes I tell them, "You're the slave of this person." I say that to the owner, and like, you work for
Yeah.
her. You work for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
it's just crystal clear. And when we walk in, we give a report on the team dynamics and how the team works, and they don't realize that because maybe the person has been there for 12 years or 20 years. They don't want to do what they need to do, but they don't realize that it's like a magic trick. You have a one uncomfortable conversation, that person leaves, and you don't ever see them again. And then the culture is back to normal.
I would have to agree with you. I mean, in my masterminds and courses and all this kind of stuff, most dentists aren't coming to me and saying, I'm so stressed out because I can't get the margins on my veneers to be done correctly, or I had to send back this case 3 times for shade because it had a dark stump. No, that happens, of course, but that's not what they're focusing on. They come to me and say, I have a hygienist that is 10 minutes late every day, or my assistant is, called our front office a bitch in front of a patient, or, my the guy who does my sterilization won't, or says rude things to the female doctor in the room. Like, it's all relationships, communication, expectations, boundaries. And that is what people suffer with. But what's crazy is that nobody puts time, effort, and money into making that better. So dentists come and they say, I'm so stressed out. Like, my practice is going crazy. I'm like, oh, it's wild every time I'm in there. So what I'm going to do is take more clinical CE. That is the answer. I'm going to learn how to do veneers better. I'm going to learn how to do implants better. I'm going to learn how to do partials better. I'm going to do digital dentures, and that's going to make me happy. And I did the same thing, so I can't blame them. But what we have to do is have the self-awareness to know what is actually the problem. And once you do that, then you put time, effort, and money into fixing that.
A component on that is also the fact that a dental office, by definition, is a small place, like physically very constrained by the space. And you spend a lot of time the same people. A team of 10 people in a corporate environment, I may see you twice a month, or once every 3 months, or every day for a little bit. It's just it 1 year in a dental office is like 50 years in a corporate environment. Just you spend there's so much together,
And if you think about like how you operate at DSD, like it would be as if you were with your clients and your clients were having an issue all the time.
Right. Please agree with that.
Physically with them all the time, and your clients always had an issue. And not only that, you brought up a point earlier, which is that there's such a discrepancy between your team and you. So it's not like you're collaborating as an equal, which you have the advantage of collaborating with as an equal at DSD. So how would you deal with that?
Well, there's, as Kyle said, the dentist needs to be the practice owner. They need to have very clear that they're a business leader, and they need to invest in that. Whether it's coaching, or it's training in culture, and how to create a culture, and how to one of the things we did in DSD early in the days, and I thought it was very eye opening, was it was a leadership coaching. It was EOS traction. I'm sure you heard about it, but it was everybody needs to be pointing in the right direction. All the arrows needs to point in the same direction. And you do an exercise where you think, what's the vision of the company? What do you need to do? Where do you think we're going? Where do you see the company in 3 years? And our arrows were each one pointing in a completely different direction. And we were all business partners, all the leadership of the company. And it was so eye-opening to see, that's what you think we're going to be in 3 years? It doesn't make any sense.
We need to prepare ourselves to be the CEO of dental practice. Like the program that you mentioned, JJ, is something that everybody in the corporate world knows. Every CEO needs to go through a basic training to be a CEO. And I don't think there's room for amateur CEOs anymore in dental practice world. There's no more room for that. You mentioned number one mistake of dentists is to allow a toxic environment in their practice. I totally agree. Allow some key people to be toxic, and many times because they are very smart or they've been doing something very well for many years, they allow that to continue when the toxicity is the cons are much bigger than the pros. But also many practices that we go, the owner is the toxic person. I see that happen all the time.
That's
because
true.
The practice owner, CEO of the practice, doesn't have this CEO perspective that if I'm a toxic person, this company will go nowhere. There's absolutely not even a chance.
Well, Christian, even them thinking about it as a company is different. You know, people don't get into dentistry to say, I want to start a company. They say, I'm an artist, I'm a
100%.
scientist, I want to do dentistry, and I can just make money doing dentistry. But you were the first one for me, Christian, that I heard talking about you need to be the CEO of your practice. And if you're not, then hire somebody or work for somebody. And with that thought of like, I think it's because there's this negative idea. It's like, I'm a doctor, I'm not here to sell things to people. But if you don't sell things to people, if people don't buy it, you're not going to be supporting anybody. You're not going to be able to help anybody. And so just the idea that thinking about your practice as a company is, I think, wild
Which is
for
wild.
many dentists.
3 options, right? 3 options. As a practice owner, you become a professional CEO, option 1. You partner up with a professional CEO, option 2, or you work for a professional CEO, option 3.
Which is hard to identify if you don't know what a professional CEO looks like, because a lot of people think, oh, great reputation, good reviews, but that's not really it. Christian, I think that you mentioned something, which is that the corporate world knows, about these things that JJ brought up, which is EOS and like traction. But I'm 6.5 years into Two Front. I didn't know about any of these things. I've got 75 investors that are like so smart and like all business people, like mostly business people or dentists. And like when I send investor updates every month. And when I was like struggling at my like lowest point, being like, how do I get this in order? Things are breaking. No one suggested this. So I actually think that what we're talking about is like a dirty secret. And I want to make sure that our listeners know, like, there is a formula for you to be the artist. And it's implementing this thing that JJ brought up that all of us know about called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System by Gino Wickman. And it's kind of like a playbook for how to run your practice. And it allows you to be the artist that you are, which every dentist is.
I think that this book should be a must for any practice owner, and incorporating, and JJ can talk about it, because as soon as and I'm like you Ingrid, I was running my company without knowing nothing about the right it was ridiculous. I look back and how did I
There's
survive?
chaos.
How did I survive as a company? So, and JJ worked on the program to bring this to practice owners, little by little. How can you learn about it, right? Uh, you, what are the things that you've been working on, JJ, to help practice owners to become a better CEO? There are more aspects to it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and EOS is one of the philosophies that works. It doesn't have to be the only one. There's many that work. But the first thing that EOS tells you is, and we thought it applies perfectly well to dentistry, because this is a business philosophy, a methodology of business. It doesn't have anything to do with dentistry, but it applies really well, is that you need to differentiate between the visionary and the person that implement the ideas. Is the integrator, right? You're the visionary, you have the ideas, the long-term vision, you run the business, you do the dentistry. And then the integrator removes barriers, talks to the clients, figures out the processes. And in 99% of dental offices in the world, this is just one person, and it should be 2, even 3.
JJ, do you remember that line in the book where Gino Wickman says, visionaries, be free?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
I was like,
I see this problem a lot. Some of you guys know I advise 11 different tech companies in the dental world. And I see this problem a lot where the CEO founder is the visionary, but they don't really have the CEO qualities. And there's one CEO that I work with. I worked with him the last 2.5 years. And about a year into me working with him, we had to tell him, like, you're not the CEO, you're the visionary. That's you. And we need to offset who the CEO is. And it was, of course, very challenging, especially when people have egos. And I could imagine that too, if someone came to me and said, listen, your company that you started,
But it's better to
can't
call
be
it.
the CEO anymore.
It's better
But
to
we
call
see
it
that in big
COO,
companies.
Kyle. CEO. Just tell the CEO, you need a COO beside you, and we're gonna follow your vision.
Right.
And you are the president. You are whatever name you want to call it. but we need an operational, professional person operating this. Otherwise, we are all going down, right?
Yeah, that way the ego doesn't get in the way.
An interesting thing that JJ said, I love that about the visionary
Integrator.
and would you say the
Integrate.
implementer or something?
Yeah.
Integrator, yes. I love that. And I think a challenging thing that dentists have is wearing multiple hats and trying to do multiple things at the same time. So I've said this before, but when you are working on a patient, you should think that you are not the CEO at that point.
Yeah.
You're not even the owner.
Right.
You're just like an associate and you're working on a patient. You
You're the
are doing
artist.
clinical dentistry. But then the exact opposite, when you have an admin day or something like that, you're not even a dentist that day. You are there to just do admin stuff, because I found the people have the most stress when they're trying to change hats really fast and go from clinical dentist to owner to integrator all at the same time. And you see this all the time, even non-dentists, right? Whether you're a parent or something, going from parent to professional to, homeowner to whatever, all at the
The
same time,
problem
it becomes
maybe is
challenging.
not changing hats fast, is actually not being aware of the transition moment, right? You, if you have that very clear, you're seeing a patient, you're completely focused, passion for clinical procedures, you're focused on the detail, you're not caring about the cost, you're thinking about how can I do this the best way possible. And that's how it should be. Somebody calls you on the back office having a problem with the bank, you leave the patient, you grab the phone, and now, and you tell yourself in 1 second, you tell, now I'm the owner of this shit, right? Now I'm defending the P&L. Now I'm talking about numbers, and I'm gonna get this loan from the bank. Boom, and you make the transition. The problem is that you need to clean your head. You need to leave what was happening behind you, and you need to shift into the new role and almost have like this quick few seconds meditation. Know who I am now, what I'm doing, what is my goal, and incorporate that role and then go for it.
To the defense of dentists, I truly think we have the hardest job because we're artists. Like, we train to be artists, right? We don't train to be artists and business owners. And if you look at every other artist out there, they have an agent to run their business, right? They have, whether you're like an artist who like works on oil on canvas, or you're like a singer, like you have an agent. They're not expected to be, Taylor Swift isn't expected to grow her media empire. She's expected to sing. We're expected to do both.
Chefs, restaurant chefs is a very good comparison
Mm.
because they mix things. They used to mix more. It's a very similar situation. They usually start by themselves. If they are smart, they quickly partner up with the business person, and they divide very clear the line between, you're going to take this care of this, you're going to make this grow, let me focus on my art, let me take care of people. Some chefs don't even, some chefs loves going to the room and talk to the clients, some don't. So then they hire somebody to be the treatment coordinator, to be the face in front of the patient, right, in front of the client. So there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from successful restaurants that are delivering the highest quality with different roles. And the chef is still the name. The chef is still the famous person there. But the smart chef is the one that identifies very quickly what is my best, what I want to do, and what I don't want to do.
Yeah, the analogy works perfect with chefs, but also what you say, Ingrid, about artists. That you said, yeah, but artists, they have an agent, right? And I was gonna say, the good ones. When they
The
don't
good
have an
ones.
agent, when they don't have an agent, what
You're
happens?
right.
They're struggling.
Well, tying it back to EOS for our listeners, that was one thing that really hit me. Gino Wickman says the only difference between Taylor Swift and the girl in the corner singing at the bar, playing her guitar, not getting paid, is that Taylor Swift knows business.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not like she's famous because of her skill. JJ, you said something earlier that I want to dig into, which is, you said that the more ambitious the dentist, the more money they want to make, the more isolated they are. Do you think it's possible for the opposite to be the case? can you make money and not be isolated as a dentist?
Yeah, I was listening to the other episode of the podcast with Simon Chart, and he said that going
Mhm.
3 days a week to the practice, he can make more money than going 5. You just have to be smart about it, about the treatments that you do, what you're good at, you do what you want to do, but also what brings the high profitability to the practice. And then you have an associate that can do the everyday bread and butter dentistry. But also, it in that way, it's all about business. It's processes, is sales strategy, is communication strategy, is pricing. You know how many dentists, Christian has been said this for 20 years. You know how many dentists say, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm too busy, I'm booked for 6 months. I would love to do this, but I can't. And Christian's like, raise your fees, raise your fees. And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's
I
right.
can't
I
do
never thought
that.
about it. You're too busy, you're always booked. You have too many
Supply and
patients,
demand.
raise your fees.
So if that's the case, what procedures do you have, like a formula of like dentists should be doing this procedures but not doing these because they're less profitable?
That depends a lot too much on how the practice works and what they like, right? There's doctors that naturally lean towards hollow necks and full smile rehabilitations with implants. There's more that go through cosmetic or ortho or aligners plus restorative. That I'm afraid I cannot give you a formula, but we'll do what works for you.
JJ, let's ask it let's kind of talk about it in a different way. If you've built a lot of practices or assisted in building hundreds of practices, if you had to build one from scratch, and let's say you're building a general dental practice somewhere in the US, what would it look like? And even more important, what would you
Yeah,
avoid
I like the
at all
question.
costs?
Good
I like
question.
the question. Yeah. So what would it look like? Nothing like a dental office. First, you
Okay, let's
would
get more
not know.
specific with that because we all on here know this because we've been around Christian for a long time, but be more specific.
Yeah, there's
So
uh,
so let's go to that question. So what makes a dental office look like a dental office? That's very important because we've been talking about, yeah.
Yes, we have to have the self-awareness.
yeah,
What are the things you walk into a dental office
When you
or
walk
even
in,
outside?
you
You
see,
look
sign.
from outside and you're like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not starting well.
Can I go full power?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
please.
The sign is horrible. Name is horrible. Logo is completely horrible. Hopefully, you don't have a tooth with Mickey Mouse hands. You know,
A molar.
the most
How creative is that? A molar.
molar with Mickey Mouse hands. Still see them all the time. Normally the even not only the logo, the font, the letters that they use to say anything in the windows or the door, it's horrible from the 80s. Like the lack of sensitivity for graphic design, it's
Taste,
just well,
taste. But how do we do that? How do we do that, JJ? Let's talk about that because I know thousands of dentists like you do, and Christian and Ingrid. We all know dentists around the world. Now, a lot of us know very cool dentists, right? We know dentists that are stylish and they understand fashion and art and architecture, food. They have amazing taste. But that's, 2%. The other 98% have no taste. So how do you teach that to somebody? Or do you just hire for taste? And again, you have to realize that you don't have taste.
I used to have a realizing is the first one. That's a top realization. I used to have a screenshot on my phone years and years ago, one of the first iPhones that I got from somewhere in the internet, unknown. And it said how to stay inspired. And it said two things. First, look at beautiful things. And second, ignore the question, what's the point? And I think
Wow.
dentistry is very cerebral. It's clinical. Everything's a data set, and what you learn in school everything is very clinical. It's methodology and skill and small. They don't stay inspired because they're looking here. They're not looking up. They are not, if I could speak generally, exposed enough to the good things in life.
So would the formula be Start going to nice hotels, start going to
Yeah.
nice restaurants, see and enjoy the good things in life so you know what to bring to your
I
patients.
I would add to this, Ingrid. I would say dentists do go to very expensive places. They usually spend the money. But the exercise is to observe, is to look around, is to identify. You walk into a place and you say, "Wow." And then you ask yourself, why am I saying wow? What is creating this warm, cozy, sophisticated feeling? There's something here. What is making the lighting good? What is making the colors good? What is making the people uh, look good, right? What is making the experience be good? Don't take it for granted. Observe it, learn from it. That's what some people that are naturally artistic, they naturally look at that. They naturally identify these things, right? So you can start observing and you can start practicing and understanding what makes a great experience happen. And then you copy paste into your environment. The other solution is just identify that you're not good at it and do the homework,
Just
hire
hire.
people, go through the
Yeah.
process. uh you're the owner. At the end of the day, you're going to say what you like and what you don't. But don't do like many people do in their own home. They bring you to their home and they proudly say, "Oh, I did the architectural design," and you're like, "Holy cow, this is a disaster," right? And "Oh, I did the painting," or "This is," and I'm like, "My God!" And you can see it.
Outsource.
Yeah, like, it's okay. It's your house. You do whatever you want. But in your practice, you're serving people. And actually, you are wanting to attract a certain type of people, right? So you need to design the experience according to the people that you want to attract. And people are more aware of it.
One framework I had for myself when Izzy and I got our house is I realized that if there's a job for it, you should ask yourself, should I pay that person for a job? Because
Absolutely.
I used to think like, oh, but like I love fashion, I love art, I love restaurants, like I can design my house. And then I
Mhm.
started actually thinking about the proportion of things. And I was like, if I mess up this proportion, it's going to mess up this entire living room. And I realized that's the reason there's a job for this
Mhm.
thing. And so
Mhm.
maybe that would be a good framework for them just to think like,
Mhm.
am I really good at this or should I pay for it?
Ingrid, look at this as example. An architect, you are a dentist, and you're very good with smile design because you've been doing it for 30 years. Here comes an architect saying, "Look, I love beauty. I love aesthetics. I love art. I'm very artistic. I don't need a smile designer. I can design my own smile. I'm an architect." And my answer is like, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Your smile design will look like me as a dentist trying to do a design of a house, right? It's not the same.
Well, there's unknown unknowns. That's the thing, right? Is unless you have the experience, you
Hmm.
have unknown unknowns to where in that example, Christian, you think, and I would think the same thing, right? Because I love
Mhm.
architecture. I have architecture books. I love this, that I could design a
Yeah.
house, but I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
So there's so many unknown unknowns for me.
JJ, going to the reception. You walked in. Okay, the front is not good. The sign is not good.
Smart.
Font is not good. Logo is not good.
Yeah.
You open the door. You walk in. What are the things that you see that?
A million things. The first thing, front desk, too big, too high, too much of a barrier. Person at the front desk, not nice, not well dressed, not welcoming. The lighting in the waiting area, horrible. No, nobody thinks about lighting in a dental office. One of Christian's favorite topics in the world. Indirect lighting and the way we do lighting. And that's why people are so comfortable at restaurants and at hotel lobbies. And a big percentage of the success of how well the restaurant, how good the restaurant looks, is the way they design the lights. And in the dental office, even if they do a renovation relatively recently, it's just boom from the ceiling down, boom. Yeah. And then, you look at, there's so much going on. Everything's in there's a TV with news, no sound. And then there's
Biggest pet peeve.
the famous water fountain, you know, magazines. If the
Exato.
doctor is good, he was in the magazine of the city or the state, best dentist in Virginia. And then that's everywhere. But the cover of the magazine didn't age well, but you still have
Yeah.
it there. You know?
That type of magazine, my suggestion, hide it.
So that's the aesthetics, JJ. What
Yeah.
about if you are trying to figure out how to run an extremely financially profitable practice? Kyle, I think you recently told me that the average overhead in the US is between 65 to 70%, right? So if you want to run like an extremely profitable
Yeah.
practice with high profit, low overhead, what would you prioritize?
So I'm originally from Spain. I worked in dentistry in Spain until 2015, and then I moved to the US, to Miami. And when I started visiting dental offices in the US, the first thing I thought, apart from they look horrible, the office, is, oh my God, they're overstaffed. There's too many people here. I because in Europe, the businesses of one dental office is smaller revenue wise. So I walk in and I'm like, how many operators do you have? And do you need 3 people at the front desk? So I would see that there were a lot of stuff. So the first thing, just because you don't want to do something doesn't mean you can afford to have somebody that does it. And I think a big part of running a successful dental office is designing the processes so that you can have the minimum amount of staff that the business needs. You know, it's very comfortable to, these overflow rooms, and this is my personal assistant, and this is the person that I have taking pictures, and all of a sudden you're paying 20 salaries. That's running the business like an amateur CEO, like we were saying before, right? So, but I didn't give you the thought. So first, you need to be very, very aware of the investment in overhead, and then good marketing, good branding, really, really, really efficient procedures, meaning having data and analyzing everything from every procedure, from every specialty, chair time, number of visits, number of repetition, minimizing, doing online monitoring so that you can reduce visits. And then, of course, invest in technology, but in the right thing. The dentists love toys. They buy everything just because it comes out. People having 3 facial scanners in 2015.
Well, let's expand on what you said.
Mm.
You said good marketing. What do you mean by that?
What is good marketing for a dentist in 2025?
Yeah. It's not Happy Monday on Instagram, is it?
It's internal marketing first. There's so much to do there.
Yeah, well, you guys have in the podcast already experts with big marketing agencies. And I don't think I can bring a lot there, but I'll tell you a couple of things that we do for marketing in dental offices that are very specific. And I think the average dental practice wouldn't be doing this. We create scripts for every type of dental treatment that we offer. We train everybody from the staff to talk about everything that we do. We do different posts on our social media, online marketing, email marketing, etc. And that's normal, right? And then something we do is that based on what the patient told us that they were going to continue doing with the treatment, we customize and automate the communication they get from the practice about the rest of the treatments that they didn't do. Let me give you an example. An adult patient that is going to go through aligners, but the dentist knows that the patient needs restorative after. And then the patient says they don't want to do it because it's too long or it's too expensive, or they don't believe the fact that after spending $8,000 on Invisalign, they have to spend another $16,000 or $20,000 on veneers. So all the communication from the moment they start the aligners until the moment they finish the aligners is very elegant, very well nurtured, but automated on the importance of having a beautiful smile with the final treatment done. So,
This was not what I thought you were going to say about marketing. And so I'm glad that you did. And I think what most dentists think of with marketing is sending out flyers to the local area, going to, a business meeting to meet local business people, like changing your website to be something. You're talking about intentional communication.
Everything needs to look like it's one-on-one, right? People don't want mass marketing, but we don't want mass marketing even with consumer products, with sexy products like an iPhone or like a watch or something sexy. From the dentist, you don't want flyers in your mail. We have to, even though we know the smile is the best product in the world, that doesn't mean the patients now.
JJ, you mentioned something else on our call, which is when we were talking about how should dentists be happier. And you said that's something that you notice that's very particular to dentists is that they tend to only focus on dentistry, even outside of
Hmm.
the office. Why do you think that is?
When Christian said before, when you meet with your friends on dentists, what do you talk about? What do you say about dentists? The first thing we talk about is these guys cannot shut up talking about dentistry. We're having dinner. It's a table with 8 people, and there's 3 dentists, and all we talk is dentistry. They hijack the night. All at any level, from the moment they start dental school when they're 21 or 23 or whatever, until they die, all they talk about is dentistry.
Some call
Kyle
it
talks about
passion.
this. Yeah, it's not. Nah, it's not passion. Nah, it's just that. No, it's the fact that they don't get exposed to the other things, like we said. And Kyle, and I think this moment is brilliant in your lecture. I've seen your lecture a million times. Um, and I had never heard anybody talking about that before, and I loved it. And it's I don't know how you call it, but it's the fact that a lot of dentists just identify themselves with being a dentist, and that's such a big part of their life that if it doesn't go well, or if they're not succeeding, or they're stressed, they don't have any other layers. Like, I'm a father, and I'm a friend, or some people like to race cars, or some people, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I have a podcast. The fact that they identify so much with what they do. Hi, I'm a dentist. Hi, it's a big part of that, Ingrid.
Yeah, I call that we need a diversified identity portfolio, just like how we need a diversified investment portfolio. Because it's something, let's say you're invested in real estate only in 2005. You're kicking ass. Oh my gosh, you're making so much money. But in 2009, you have nothing. All of your investments went to shit. But if you were also invested in gold and in crypto and in stocks and in bonds and in startups, then you'd be okay, right? You hedge your bets against everything else. And I think the problem with we dentists is that we put all of our eggs in one basket. We put our whole identity into dentistry. And it's a profession where you're bound to fail. And I don't mean that in a super negative way, but you're bound to have a crown that comes off, or an implant that doesn't integrate, or you have to send the shade back 3 times. And then you think your whole self-worth is tied to that. What I don't know is if other professions have as much of this attachment to their identity. I think there may be certain ones that do, but I don't think a lot of the other ones do.
I think it's really hard. Like, if I were to assess it, I feel like, again, I'm like almost 7 years into my journey running Two Front. And I think it was year 2 or year 3 that we almost ran out of money. We got down to 2 months, and I had to like let everyone go. We were pivoting business models, and I had no identity. So besides being, the mother of Two Front essentially. And so like my identity crashed because I was like, I'm a failure. But the reason that I was investing so much is because my business wasn't working. And so I think what's so troubling here is that in order for dentists to have an identity, they need to have the space to have an identity and like have hobbies, which means that the first thing they need to do is like get a grip of their business, right?
Mhm.
Is that kind of, do you see it differently?
I I think the dentist connection with I'm a dentist is bigger than the connection between I'm a business owner, I have a business, I'm a founder, for example. When you start a company and your company fails, you tell everybody, my company failed, the company failed. You as a dentist, when we fail, I failed. I failed, right? And because you're dealing with patients, and patients, it's impossible. Every 7 happy patients, you have 3 unhappy patients, and that is very strong. You need to be very mature emotionally and have support from different sides of your life to allow you to swallow that, right? People trying to sue you, or people saying that you're horrible, or people screaming at you, or even worse, sometimes the nicest patient and the case is a complete failure. And you're, gosh, I'm feeling so bad, and so many things you cannot control. On the business, the market crash, the product was bad, our customer support didn't work. You have a diagnosis. And in dentistry, you're like, just, I'm not doing my job properly. This is insane. I want to quit, you know, and that's all I am. The last 10 years, I told all my friends that I was super happy dentist. And now nobody knows, but I want to quit. I can't stand anymore. So it's very hard if you don't have this perspective that dentistry is just a piece of you, and is just you trying to do your best in your profession. But uh, you need to diversify your resources of what brings you energy.
100%. I'm curious if everyone here were to start a practice, if you would start it on your own or if you would start it with partners, JJ, the non-dentist.
Yeah, I would do it. I would do it on my own, and I would invest a lot on who the first person, the first key employee non-clinical is, as I said, and then of course prepare a plan for that person to get equity as the milestones are met and the business is progressing. So I wouldn't start half and half with that person because I don't know if it would work and they would want to stay uh, in in the business of a dental office. But when I say invest a lot, I mean hire top talent.
But JJ, I love something you mentioned. I think it's worth emphasizing. Uh, I saw some very smart business people as a podcast as well talking about that. A key factor for a business to thrive is for the founders to be generous enough to share equity
Mhm,
as you grow.
mhm.
Dentists are the opposite profile.
Yeah.
They're like,
Right. Right.
I'm not giving shit, right? This is my practice. This is my baby. This is my thing. Of course they feel alone, right? Of course they feel alone. Sharing equity, and it was
Yeah.
a round table with some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, and one of the only things that they all agreed was sharing equity and developing a plan for people, for the key people to be motivated and see the light at the end of the tunnel and want to stay because they have skin in the game.
Mhm. But that's the only way, or one of the only ways to get talent, right? Because the smart people they wanna have skin in the game and they wanna have something. If you cannot pretend to hire the smartest business people to go work with you in one dental office and then not give them anything.
This happens in the tech world, but there are some legalities in the U.S. about non-dentists owning part stock of companies in certain states. So I've talked about this before too, Christian, that I believe that we should utilize what the tech companies do with equity, but there are some legalities in certain
You
countries,
have to
certain
find a
states where you can't
solution,
do
right?
that,
You have to
unfortunately.
find a solution around that. I understand, but
There's probably a way of doing a shell company that is a management
Totally. Yeah.
company of the dental
yeah,
office, and they
I
own a
yeah,
think
you
that's
have
portion
it.
to.
of that management
That's the
company.
the trick. And imagine if we were opening a practice. If we decided, if I'm going to open a practice, I don't want to have a hygienist. I want to have the best hygienist.
Mhm.
The best hygienist. I don't want to have a treatment coordinator. I want to have the best treatment coordinator. I want to treat every little department of my practice as a department of a company. I'm going to get the best directors. You're going to, if you start a practice like this, you're starting like nobody else. People are like, how can I start a practice so I can make the most money and I can save money with everybody and I can have the best profit in the world? That's how people usually start practices. So that's not how tech companies start in California, where everything happens. People start with a different mindset. I'm going to start my company. I want to have the best and I want to choose the best and I want to share with the best.
Well, I'll tell you from the tech world that people will stay because they want to vest their equity and make
Exactly.
sure the company does well. So you may, and a lot of people love in dentistry love to complain. No one wants to work. No one wants to this. But I've seen people in the tech world stay with a company for 10 years simply because they have this invested interest. They would have left if they didn't have any equity.
100%.
They
And you know
would have
what's
left
crazy?
years
They
ago.
actually have been talking about this for 100 years. Like, this is this book that I'm reading, like talking about resources for our audience. Like, this isn't just tech, right? Like, tech is like the past 30 years. Andrew or Napoleon Hill talks about this in Think and Grow Rich, that the modern business relationship, both people have to profit equally. They say that as an employer, you have to think, how can I give this person as much value as they're giving me? Because if you're not, your end customer that you're serving doesn't get served. And I think the
Oh,
problem, Christian
we
and
need to
Kyle, that
train
you
that.
both have brought up is that we have a scarcity mindset. And so the tech mindset is like, it's an abundance mindset. This is a huge pie that we're building. So how do we cultivate that amongst dentists?
I think we are starting just by making people understand that we are starting a business and you need to think like successful future business owners. When somebody starts a startup in California on technology, it's like two, three guys, and they know nothing about where they're going, but they're treating the opportunity as a big opportunity. And a future practice owner should treat the opportunity as a big. If your practice becomes the most successful practice in your state, I can tell you, you're going to make so much money. The most successful, right? Imagine that. So you need to start your practice with the same mentality that startups start, right? The abundance mentality. If we're going to make this, we're going to make this right. I want to bring the best people from inception. And the only way to bring the best people from inception is to share, is to allow people to have skin in the game. It's to make people embrace the project as if it was their project as well.
I want to make a little caveat that you can do that and do good work. A lot of people think you can focus on money or you can focus on good dentistry. And, me, JJ, and Christian all know dentists around the world that make good money and do incredible dentistry, like the best dentists in the world. Now, we also know some of the best dentists in the world that don't make it that much money, right? Too. But I want to make sure that people aren't hearing us and saying, oh, you guys are just focusing on money, right? I mean, if you've seen Christian speak, if you've seen his clinical cases, they are incredible dentistry, the top level that you can think of with the top dentists around the world. So I just want to make that.
100%.
JJ, to end, I know you had a funny story about Christian.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us that story?
I had to filter. I had to filter a little bit.
Careful. We told him he could say anything. Now I'm worried.
You say whatever you want.
This is for all audiences.
Bring it.
Christian somehow became this incredible communicator. So the biggest part of his job was giving lectures, right? He was a dentist, but was also a dental technician, working as a dental technician, spending time in the bench, layering ceramics. And then he created DZ, he started speaking, and we realized he was good at it. His mother, Chantal, says that she always knew. But then we started traveling all over the world. And the reality is that at some point it got insane. We did this thing called the DZ World Tour for the first time, where we gave lectures in like 38 countries, something like that. And we would leave with the suitcase for a month and give 1-day lectures, 2-day lectures all over the world. And all over is Boston, Vegas, LA, Taipei, Hong Kong, Manila, Berlin, London, Miami,
Oh
with
my
one
God.
suitcase. And there was a point where, Christian, you were a little burnt because of the mental effort and burnt because of the traveling. Because I'm exhausted, okay? But I don't have to lecture. I'm just going from hotel to hotel. While he's lecturing, I can be doing whatever I want. I can be working, catching up on emails, or I can just be watching soccer, something I often do in lectures. But the guy's on stage dropping knowledge for 10 hours, boom, 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 boom. And he was burnt. So at some point between, I think this is 2017, end of 2017, beginning of 2018, he just didn't have any more batteries. And he would fall asleep in every single dinner. And sometimes local organizers, the guys that are, in Taipei, and they're very excited because they're bringing Dr. Coachman. And now Dr. Coachman is here and he's gonna have dinner with us. We're gonna bring him to the best restaurant. And the Christian is but sleeping, not just dozing off with the eyes. He's in bed, like in
No,
bed. And
the worst
we have
was-
pictures.
Oh my
We have
God.
pictures.
Oh, and they
So-
used to take pictures of every.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a file, a folder. They have a folder with
Yeah.
pictures of only me sleeping everywhere. And the worst was when I slept in front of the dean of a university dinner, just 4 of us, and the guy is looking at me, speaking to me in my eyes, and I'm answering until I fall asleep right in front of
You're
him.
lying.
That's
No,
true.
no.
You're gonna have to send
Uh,
us those pictures.
Ingrid, I will. Forehead on top of the table, like that's sleeping, like the forehead touching the table.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah.
And the guy says, I think he needs to sleep.
So no, he's fine. He's fine. We're good to see you. I'm happy you don't feel that way
Amazing.
anymore. I'm happy to see you with energy again.
I'm better.
Oh my God. JJ, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
I have my DSD email, jj@digitalsmiledesign.com. And if you want, I'll give you my phone number. The best way to message me is on WhatsApp. I am not in any social media. Zero, none. I went to a month detox last summer that ended up being forever detox. So, but I'm
Amazing.
happy. I'm very active on WhatsApp, so I'm very happy, and I'll be super available to answer anybody that wants to get in touch with me.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on our show. This has been so fun.
This was fun. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having me.